Hello and welcome to NTD News Today.
We have insights and perspectives on the stories shaping our world.
Breaking news, in-depth analysis, and inspiration to power your day. Today we're tuning into a Senate hearing titled "The Gun Violence Epidemic, a Public Health Crisis."
The hearing is hosted by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, chaired by Senator Dick Durbin, a Democrat from Illinois.
Let's tune in.
The hearing on the gun violence epidemic, a public health crisis, is today's topic. The committee will hear from public health experts who've been on the front lines of gun violence epidemic. They understand the pain of a loved one whose family member has been taken away too soon by the pull of a trigger, and they've seen the aftermath of bullets tearing through bone like it's tissue paper. In cities like Chicago, dealing with the constant drumbeat of gun violence has turned these public health professionals into battlefield experts. Chicago faces the same challenges as many other cities and towns. In fact, many rural areas have even higher rates of gun violence than the urban areas. Across the country, gun violence is a public health epidemic, plain and simple. In 2022, there were more than 48,000 firearm-related deaths in the United States. That's 132 Americans every day dying from gun violence. More than half of firearm-related deaths were suicides. More than 4 out of 10 were homicides. And guns are now the #1 cause of death among America's children and teenagers. Not auto accidents, not cancer, guns. I'm going to share a video that shows the devastation left in the wake of gun violence and provides a glimpse into heroic efforts to heal communities and prevent future violence. I'm going to warn the audience that the video is disturbing and may be upsetting to some if they wish to avert their eyes. Please play the video.
Foundations, community organizations, and corporations have all stepped up to support initiatives that holistically address the root causes of this cycle of violence.
I think reframing this as a public health crisis, I'm an infectious disease specialist. Many of people in my field have actually turned to gun violence, recognizing that gun violence behaves like an infectious disease. It is contagious. Violence is passed on from person to person.
Collecting data, identifying trends, developing strategies to prevent harm, reducing risk, sharing these practices, this is how you combat an epidemic. It's worked in the past. We use the same public health approach to dramatically cut automobile fatalities. We still drive where we need to go, but we have seatbelts and speed limits that help us get there alive. Public health experts are already working to address gun violence in real time. Last year, Congress passed the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. I want to salute my colleague, Senator Cornyn, who is here with us today, representing the minority. It took real courage, John. We may disagree on a lot of issues, but at a time when we needed to act, you did your best, and I thank you for that. It included $250 million in funding for community violence intervention and $250 million for states to provide comprehensive community mental health services. Let me give one example of the successful, innovative programs underway. In Chicago, I heard from doctors personally who were sick of treating gunshot victims on the operating table. They wanted to prevent the gruesome injuries from happening in the first place. So in 2018, I brought together the CEOs of the 10 largest hospitals serving Chicago and understand what they were doing in the neighborhoods surrounding their hospitals and how we can do more. We formed the Chicago HEAL Initiative, which has emerged as a national exemplar of how hospitals can collaborate and reach outside their walls to prevent gun violence. These hospitals have increased local hiring by 84% in the last 4 years. They've opened 24 school-based health clinics to serve 11,000 students and are training nearly 4,000 local students for careers in healthcare. Most importantly, these hospitals aren't just stitching up physical injuries. They're addressing the emotional scars of their patients. Through counseling and case management to prevent retaliation and promote successful recovery, just 2% of over 8,000 participating patients at the University of Chicago have returned to the hospital. Without these programs and this initiative, 45% of patients with a gunshot wound are likely to return within 5 years with another one. That is a stunning statistic. 45% within 5 years will return shot a second time. Similar steps are underway across the country to use this strategy, which is known as community violence intervention. CVI uses trusted community figures to engage with individuals at high risk of perpetrating or being victims of violence. They work to interrupt acts of violence before they happen and connect people with treatment and tools that decrease the risk of future violence. It's time for us to build on this bipartisan Safer Communities Act and ongoing efforts that are working in red and blue states. And join together, surely we can find some common ground between parties to create real change for the American people when it comes to this public health crisis of gun violence. I now turn to Senator Cornyn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few months ago, the Democratic governor of New Mexico, Michelle Lujan Grisham, issued a, quote, public health emergency order to suspend the right to bear arms in Albuquerque and surrounding Bernalillo County. I think I pronounced that correctly. She was warned repeatedly by officials in her state that such a suspension violated the Constitution. A group of our colleagues here, including Senators Tillis, Graham, Kennedy, Blackburn, and Cotton, and I wrote to the Department of Justice to intervene and protect the constitutional rights of New Mexicans to carry a firearm outside of their home. Our request was consistent with the Second Amendment and the court's jurisprudence, and I expect that the court of last resort will find the same. But unfortunately, that doesn't mark the end of the road for this latest attack on what is a constitutional right. That's something some of our colleagues consistently overlook. And the fact is that a firearm in the hands of a law-abiding citizen is not a threat to public safety. Indeed, there's a story, I think it's in the Washington Post today, by Philip Bump, who points out that 52% of American households have a firearm in that household, 52%. Washington Democrats have unfortunately chosen to follow Governor Grisham's lead and are now using public health as a guise to address their concerns. I wish they had the same concerns about the #1 cause of death for Americans between the age of 18 and 45, which is fentanyl poisoning. Fentanyl made from chemical precursors from China going to Mexico, made to look like relatively innocuous pharmaceuticals, which are then smuggled into the United States. And unfortunately, many young people end up consuming what they think is a relatively innocuous drug and die as a result of fentanyl poisoning. Well, we don't have to look far to see that examples of executive overreach that have relied on so-called public health emergencies. During the COVID-19 pandemic, too many politicians were quick to shut down houses of worship and church services while allowing other businesses and other organizations to operate. Here in Washington, D.C., for example, Mayor Muriel Bowser refused to allow the Capitol Hill Baptist Church to hold outdoor church services because of a public health emergency. The judge in that case found that the mayor had exceeded her authority, and it substantially burdened the free exercise of religion. It's important to note that the application of these so-called public health precautions was not even-handed. While many politicians deemed it unsafe for businesses to operate or churchgoers to attend worship services, they seemed to have no problem with packed BLM riots, as in Black Lives Matter riots in the summer of 2020 that caused millions of dollars worth of damages. So we have a trust issue and a constitutional issue when we use the public health approach to attempt to strip away core constitutional rights. The other problem with the public health approach is that the most effective solution to firearm-related homicides and assault is effective criminal law enforcement. That means effective police, prosecutors, courts, and prisons. We know that these tools actually work. We know they work because we have historical data in order to prove it.
Right now, all over the country, kids at Shriners Hospitals for Children are able to go home and be with their families for the holidays. And it's only possible because of the monthly support of people just like you.
Thanks to a generous donor, every dollar you give can help twice as many kids like me and have double the impact.
With your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you, and a reminder of the care you'll be providing so kids can be with their families.
Christmas Eve will find me where the love light gleams.
It only takes a moment to call the number on your screen, or you can visit loveshriners.org right now on your phone or computer.
Thanks to a generous donor, your gift will go twice as far and help more kids like me.
Because every child just wants to be home for the holidays, and your gift makes that possible.
Your call is the best gift of all.
Your gift will be my favorite Christmas present this year.
Thank you for giving.
Please call the number on your screen or go online right now with your monthly gift.
And when you do, your gift will have 2 times the impact.
Organize your freezer. Now keep your freezer fresh and long-lasting. Smart Freezer Container. Thanks, Soyun. The magic of the freezer. Make efficient use of freezer space. Keep the freezer cleaner and more tidy. Easy to store modular system. Resistant from -22 degrees to 212 degrees. For family safety, BPA-free and LDPE material. Different sizes for different applications, depending on the size and use. Use it smartly. Efficient space utilization for cold air circulation. Neatly organized with minimal empty space. Partitions and trays for more efficient storage. Smart Freezer Container.
Thanks to Soyun.
Welcome to what we used to call Lost Wages Nevada. We're here for a very serious reason, this time featuring Doug Burgum.
Good to see you, Roger.
Yeah. How's the Achilles?
challenge that we're facing in Ukraine, in the South China Sea, challenge that Israel faces.
And as your president, I promise you this, I will not let you down.
Assistance should come with strict conditions to ensure taxpayer money is advancing American interests, not China or Iran.
Who do you think can get it done?
Welcome back. Today we're watching a Senate hearing titled The Gun Violence Epidemic, a Public Health Crisis.
The hearing is hosted by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, chaired by Senator Dick Durbin, a Democrat from Illinois.
Let's tune back in.
As law enforcement efforts were stepped up in the early and mid-1990s, we saw dramatic declines in criminal violence of all kinds. One of the reasons for this is that the concentration of gun violence is among small numbers of the population. It's not the general population, it's a small percentage of the population where this phenomenon exists. In Washington, D.C., for example, in 2021, a study found that only 500 people were responsible for up to 70% of the gun violence in the district. In Boston, a 28-year-old study found that half of the city's homicides were committed by 1% of the population, involved with gangs primarily. A 2014 study showed a similar situation in Chicago. What all of this means, I believe, is that if you empower law enforcement to selectively investigate and prosecute repeat offenders, you can dramatically reduce the gun violence in a community where it's a problem. By removing the worst criminal elements from the community, everyone is safer. That's the original purpose of the Project Safe Neighborhoods program, which passed out of the Senate this year. That program focuses on investigating and prosecuting the most dangerous and violent criminals in our communities to ensure they do not continue to harm other people. And we've seen over the last 2+ decades, it's had an overwhelming success rate at reducing violent crime. Successful programs like Project Safe Neighborhoods require both resources and political will. You can't simply achieve safer communities by defunding the police or letting violent offenders out on bail like, unfortunately, too many prosecutors have been willing to do in communities across our country. Today, violent crime is ravaging many of our communities, and the public is, of course, taking notice, as they must. Here in the District of Columbia, carjackings are up dramatically. And I have to believe that a lot of this has to do with the perception that there will not be consequences associated with committing such crimes against innocent citizens, including members of the United States Congress. A recent Gallup poll showed that 63% of Americans describe the crime problem in the U.S. as either extremely serious or very serious. That's the highest level since this particular poll began in 2000. And 77% of Americans believe there is more crime today in the United States than there was just a year ago. Again, when we talk about the gun violence epidemic, it seems as though a substantial part of that debate is our current crime problem, which has spiked due to the left's soft-on-crime policies and the defund the police movement. Of course, we know the other side of the gun violence issue is mental health. This is especially important when we include firearm-related suicides, as the chairman said. About 60% of the gun deaths in America are the result of a suicide, someone taking their own life. And of course, we know that the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which we did pass, made the single largest investment in community-based mental health care in American history. A good start. In 2023, a survey from Mental Health America found that 21% of American adults have claimed symptoms of a mental illness. That's 50 million Americans. A 2015 study published by the Annals of Epidemiology found mental illness is strongly associated with increased risk of suicide, which accounts, as I said, for more than half of the gun-related deaths in this country. Suicide is a mental health problem, and we're not going to fix the issue by denying people their constitutional right to keep and bear arms. at least among the general population. Countries like Belgium, Japan, South Korea all have higher suicide rates than the United States, but don't have a Second Amendment. Mental health problems are also often involved in mass shootings, as we know. In the wake of the Buffalo and Uvalde shootings, we looked at the profile of these mass shooters and found that many of them had serious underlying mental health problems, mental health issues that were unaddressed and untreated. Many of our colleagues, including Senator Tillis, Graham, Durbin, and Coons, and many others, worked together, as you've heard, to pass the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. I think that bill has already saved lives. I get regular updates of the success of that law as it deals with mental health and violence in our communities. But there are other parts of the bill that are working as well. Since the law was enacted in June of 2022, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, new criminal penalties and firearm trafficking had led to more than 100 new charges against dangerous cartel members and firearms traffickers. The enhanced juvenile records check alone has stopped 400 transactions of people who would ordinarily flunk a background check were they an adult and you only check their adult mental health and criminal history. But now, because we have an enhanced check that includes juvenile records, 400 transactions have been stopped, while 98.5% of the background check system is unaffected. This, of course, builds on the positive changes that came from a bill we called Fix NICS, the National Instant Criminal Background Check Act, which was signed into law by President Trump in 2018. That law has led to the uploading of millions of new records into the FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check database to prevent those who are already legally prohibited from possessing a firearm under existing law from obtaining one. All this was done, both Fix NICS and the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, in a bipartisan way without infringing the rights of law-abiding citizens. The point is, we can find ways to come together to get things done, but using public health authorities as a blanket excuse to strip away constitutional rights or framing gun violence as an epidemic divides us more than it unites us, and it really kind of misses the point. These are not autonomously fired weapons. They involve human agency. And as we've seen, when we focus on the humans, we can have a very positive impact. So I hope we look at the entire picture of gun violence, which includes focusing on repetitive acts of violence by a small percentage of our communities, focusing on mental health diagnosis and treatment, and finding ways that we can address gun violence like we did in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Again, all without infringing on the rights of law-abiding citizens. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Cornyn. And you've raised some very important issues like fentanyl, which we've had hearings in this committee about the issue of narcotics and what's happening to America. President Biden recently raised this issue with the leader of China. I hope that it leads to something positive in diminishing the supply on that side of it. You raised the issues of freedom of religion, which is important to all of us and is discussed frequently in this committee. You've talked about funding the police. I believe that funding the police is critical. I've never said otherwise. I hope that on some of the spending bills that our Republican friends will start voting for them when they find funding for the police included. That should be a bipartisan effort. But the one thing that you don't acknowledge and we disagree on is the fact that the United States of America is unique among nations. Unique among nations. There is no other country, developed economy in this world where the #1 cause of death among children and teenagers is guns, period. We are a unique nation in many ways, but this is something we shouldn't take pride in. And to address it at this hearing, I think, is appropriate and timely. The white coats that are represented in the audience here are men and women who've given their life to medicine and have to face the products of these violent actions and try to keep these poor people alive for another day. And yet we know that doing nothing means that 45% of them are going to return with another gunshot wound. What is wrong with this picture? Even if it is a limited number of people who are engaged in it, are we going to turn our back on the fact that 122 Americans die every single day by gun wounds? That is a fact in our country and no other country. When it comes to mental illness, other countries face mental illness every day as well, but they don't turn to guns or wanton violence as an alternative in the way they do in the United States. That is entirely unique to our country. Before we return to our witnesses, let me briefly lay out the mechanics. After I swear the witnesses in, they'll have 5 minutes each to provide an opening statement, and then a round of questions where each senator will have 5 minutes to ask. We welcome 5 witnesses, and I'm going to introduce the majority witnesses. Our first witness is Dr. Megan Ranney. Dr. Ranney is the Dean of the Yale School of Public Health, board-certified emergency physician and violence prevention researcher. She's been a leading national voice for addressing firearm injuries as public health problem for well over 10 years. Thank you. We're joined as well by Dr. Franklin Cozy Gay. Dr. Cozy Gay is Director of Violence Recovery Program at the University of Chicago Medicine, which helps trauma patients and their families with crisis intervention and social service. In 5 years, the program has grown 800%, serving over 8,000 participants, and employs more than 20 specialists who are themselves either gun violence survivors or family members of gun violence victims. Our final majority witness is Vaughn Bryant. Mr. Bryant's the Executive Director of Metropolitan Peace Initiatives, which is based in Chicago. MPI focuses on community violence intervention by providing trauma-informed behavioral health service, building a citywide network of outreach workers, and enhancing community capacity to reduce violence. I now turn the floor over to Senator Cornyn to introduce the minority witnesses.
I'd like to say this is the first time, but there have been others.
How many?
Who can keep track?
You think this is a joke?
Darling, we need answers, and you're gonna give them to us.
Tell us again.
My car broke down. I brought it here. I got stuck paying an expensive repair bill.
So it's true.
How much, darling?
$2,300.
$2,300?
What was I supposed to do? My transmission was shot.
You pick up your phone and you call CarShield before the car breaks down.
Plans through CarShield cover up to 5,000 parts and systems in your car.
That's right. A plan through CarShield could save you on some criminally high auto repairs, especially if your car is out of warranty. So, call CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company, before a breakdown and save yourself from getting stuck in car repair jail.
Let me guess. You hate saving money.
Who hates saving money?
Apparently you do.
All you had to do was call CarShield. And you could have protected yourself against expensive repairs.
Yeah, and then my price will go up the minute I file a claim.
Shut up! CarShield has the price locked in.
For as long as you cover your car.
I guess I should have called CarShield?
It's about time you said something that made sense.
Now you know what you need to do next time.
Bet he'll call CarShield now.
So can I go? Or...
Don't get handcuffed paying expensive auto repairs. Call now and get the CarShield guarantee. Your price will never go up and your coverage will never go down as long as you cover your car. In just minutes, you could have a plan that covers up to 5,000 parts and systems in your car. Don't wait until it's too late. Get CarShield's best coverage yet. Call 800-965-0729. 800-965-0729. 800-965-0729.
Anyone who's ever sold a home will tell you it's really hard. And it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we take care of every detail.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
I'm Steve Lance in Washington, D.C., and we are NTD News.
Thanks for staying with us. Today we're tuning into a Senate hearing titled The Gun Violence Epidemic, a Public Health Crisis.
The hearing is hosted by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, chaired by Senator Dick Durbin, a Democrat from Illinois.
Let's watch.
Ms. Swerer, Amy Swerer is a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Her areas of scholarship include the Second Amendment, overcriminalization, school safety, and the intersection of mental health and gun violence. She runs Heritage's Defense Gun Use Database and is the primary author of Heritage's recent ebook, The Essential Second Amendment. She earned her JD and undergraduate degrees from the University of Nebraska. Mr. Stephen Koch, who's been a frequent witness here before the committee, served with the Department of Justice for 33 years, including 30 years as a federal prosecutor in the Eastern District of Tennessee. Between 2017 and 2019, he served as Associate Deputy Attorney General and Director of Law Enforcement Affairs. In that capacity, he led two of DOJ's priority programs, violent crime reduction and strengthening the DOJ's relationship with state and local law enforcement. Before joining the DOJ, Mr. Koch worked as a police officer for 7 years. Presently, Mr. Koch serves as a general counsel for both the Major Cities Chiefs Association and the Major County Sheriffs of America. And he also serves as outside counsel for the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I ask the witnesses to please stand and be sworn. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Dr. Franklin Kozier is first.
Chairman Durman, Senator Cornyn, and respected committee members, I'm deeply grateful to have the opportunity today to share a personal story that underscores the vital violence recovery program. My name, Dr. Franklin Kozier, the director of this hospital-based violence intervention program. As was highlighted today, gun violence is an agonizing crisis plaguing our nation, causing immeasurable pain and suffering. However, there are proactive ways we can respond to get in front of the problem, and that through a collaborative and coordinated approach, a public health prevention and intervention approach, many of our facets of our society can come together to be a part of the solution, and hospital-based violence intervention programs are core to solving this complex puzzle. What is the Violence Recovery Program? It is a hospital-based violence intervention program that consists of highly trained paraprofessionals, many who are impacted themselves as survivors of violence, who often come from the community. They are housed in the hospital 24/7, 365 days a year. They provide crisis intervention support while the patient is there, and that continues through a coordinated approach with our spiritual care team, social work, child life specialists, mental health specialists, our clinicians in the hospital, as well as Healing Hurt People Chicago. Our specialists use intensive long-term case management, partnering with community violence interventionists in the community that have special relationships that are core to our approach for comprehensive recovery and preventing re-injury. Today, I want to bring the human side of our efforts through a story that has touched my heart and captured our collaborative and coordinated approach and why that approach is so critical. I want to share a story of a 12-year-old patient who arrived at our trauma center with a gunshot wound to the left thigh. At that moment, our team moved in swiftly in action within the hospital walls, not just as healthcare providers, but as compassionate individuals eager to make a difference. We provided practical assistance, providing a phone charger, a blanket, water, but we also consulted with our child life specialists to provide a comforting presence. As we delved deeper into the interpersonal risk assessments, it became painfully clear that this young child was exceptionally high risk for re-injury after being discharged. His family's safety was also in jeopardy. Through this juncture, it demanded more than just medical attention. We connected with shelters, securing temporary emergency funding resources to meet the family's immediate needs. Our support continued, understanding that we needed to provide wraparound services to address the holistic needs around resiliency and recovery from trauma. Our collaboration extended with our internal recovery and empowerment after community trauma, mental health clinicians who provided therapeutic sessions for our survivors and their families. We contacted our program partner, Healing Her People, who connected with patients within the trauma intervention specialists to provide this long-term case management. Regular calls, regular home visits were conducted with the patient and his mother, providing emotional, psychological support, and with practical help such as emergency transportation, counseling, and community-based activities. I regret to share that that family's home was rattled with gunshots. Their home was destroyed in a retaliation event. However, we secured transitional shelter in Indiana, our neighboring state, for 10 days. And after that, our team continued until we were able to establish a permanent home in a neighboring state. Collaborating with our street outreach partners that will be represented here by Mr. Bryant, we made sure that those leaders that have existing relationships with the individuals that are causing harm would agree to create a non-aggression agreement to prevent further violence from happening. That agreement has been held up for this entire time. This example is underscored in regarding the complexity of the work that we're doing. One thing that I want to highlight is the role that our Chicago Police Department have with our community violence interventionists. One of my proudest moments in doing this work is hearing our Chicago police officers commend CVI, community violence interventionists, for doing work, for establishing peace in the community and establishing non-aggression agreements. I'm equally proud when I hear our community violence interventionists commend the police officers for treating residents and those that are causing harm with respect and dignity. Since May 2018, the Violence Recovery Program has engaged over 9,000 patients. 85% of them have been African American, 70% of them have been victims of gunshot wounds, 81% males, 86% involved in community violence, 60% between the ages of 22 and 40. Impressively, our program has accepted 89% of the patients have accepted services through this work, resulting in a re-injury rate of 2.1%. While this outcome speaks to their terrific work, re-injury rate is only at the program level. Thanks to Senator Durbin's HEAL initiative, we're working to establish data sharing agreements with all of the 10 hospitals that are a part of that initiative. As we continue to experience the impact of this gun violence, it is clear that this is a persistent public health crisis. However, our response to be proactive needs to happen through a collaborative and coordinated approach. Hospital-based programs are very important, like our violence recovery program, to play a perfect role, a critical role in establishing solutions towards this complex puzzle. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Stephen Koch.
Good morning. Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Cornyn, members of the committee, thank you very much for the opportunity to appear before you today. And thank you, Senator Cornyn, for that introduction. I am serving in the capacities that you described, but I am here representing the views that I'm going to express are the views of my own. And I'd like to just begin with one single observation, and it's this. What this committee does or does not do will have a profound impact on violent crime in our country. I'm convinced of this because I was a federal prosecutor when our nation faced very similar problems in the mid-1980s. Crime was skyrocketing. Congress responded, and it responded with legislative programs and statutes that allowed federal prosecutors to team up with their state and local law enforcement partners and to go after the most violent criminals in our country. The program worked. Violent crime began to turn around by 1991 as we continued to fill our prisons with violent offenders from across the country. Over the next 2 decades, and by 2014, violent crime had been cut in half. Then in 2015, we began to see a rise and an increase in violent crime. To those of us who were participants in the system, this was no surprise because we had watched as the federal criminal justice system was incrementally weakened by events. This morning, I'd like to focus on 4 of those events. First, DOJ policy handcuffing federal prosecutors, beginning with the Attorney General Holder's memo in 2010, and now followed up by Attorney General Garland's memo to federal prosecutors. Federal prosecutors have been ordered not to charge offenders, especially drug traffickers, with the most serious crimes they commit. As a result, the front end of our criminal justice system has been weakened. Second, in a series of opinions by the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court has significantly narrowed the reach of key statutory provisions designed to take violent offenders off the street. Among the statutes narrowed has been the Armed Career Criminal Act. Attempts have been made to pass legislation by Congress to correct these narrowing effects, but those statutory provisions have not passed. Third, the steady drumbeat of anti-police rhetoric premised on baseless allegations that law enforcement officers across the country are racist. These are the men and women who are the backbone of our criminal justice system. Several studies have determined that the anti-police rhetoric has caused depolicing, which in turn has reduced arrests and undermined both federal and state criminal justice systems.
The highest art is beautiful, breathtaking, timeless, and moving. Experience art with 5,000 years of history, inspired by the divine. Experience Shin-Yun.
Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonatti created, perfected, and patented the Bonatti spine procedures. Using his genius, Bonatti invented the precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonatti spine procedures, they consistently reflect 98.75% patient satisfaction. 75,000 procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients suffer from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, no full bellies. All around the world, parents are struggling to feed their children. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. COVID, conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we're fed up. Fed up with the fact that hunger robs children of their childhood. Fed up with the lack of progress. Fed up with the injustice. Help us brighten the lives of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients. Prevent children from dropping out of school. Support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give before December 31st can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Childhood without food is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org today.
Welcome back. Today we're watching a Senate hearing titled The Gun Violence Epidemic, a Public Health Crisis.
The hearing is hosted by the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, chaired by Senator Dick Durbin, a Democrat from Illinois.
Let's get back to it.
Good morning, Chairman Durman, Senator Cornyn, and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. My name is Vaughn Bryant. I'm the Executive Director of Metropolitan Peace Initiatives, also known as MPI, the Division of Metropolitan Family Services. I come to this work growing up in Detroit, Michigan. I'm a son of a Detroit police officer, and growing up, all of the sports I played were coached by police officers. I went on to become a fourth-round draft pick by the Detroit Lions in 1994, and I've spent half of my professional career serving the community. MPI coordinates, supports, and sustains a cross-agency community safety infrastructure made up of local community-based organizations rooted in neighborhoods hardest hit by gun violence in the city of Chicago. For the first time in Chicago's history, organizations with proven CVI outcomes across the city's geographies have come together to build a civilian infrastructure dedicated to preventing violence, delivering a comprehensive set of services to heal communities at highest risk for violence, and providing opportunities for individual rehabilitation. In 2015, Chicago endured the Laquan McDonald saga. In 2016, we saw 762 individuals killed by guns and 4,580 individuals shot, increases of 58% and 47% respectively. That led to a group of local leaders establishing Communities Partnering for Peace, or CP4P. Convened by MPI, we began to partner with 8 organizations working in 9 communities across the city of Chicago. Today, that coalition includes 13 partner agencies active in 27 Chicago communities. The program targets individuals most at risk for perpetrating gun violence or becoming a victim. Key services include street outreach, engaging individuals at a high likelihood of shooting or being shot, case management services to address social determinants of health, victim services to provide supports and safety planning for victims of gun violence, and community-based events aimed at building community safety and solidarity, known as Light in the Night. We administer the Metropolitan Peace Academy, a multidisciplinary platform that trains, professionalizes, and strengthens the field of street outreach and community violence intervention. The MPA features a curriculum that is 18 weeks, 144 hours of intensive curriculum shaped and taught by street outreach workers, subject matter experts, and is guided by 14 professional standards. MPI's model also includes behavioral health, workforce development, civil legal aid, and organizational capacity building. In addition, MPI partners with Southland Resilience Initiative to strengthen and empower, also known as Southland Rise, a collaborative of the University of Chicago Medical Center and Advocate Christ Medical Center, formed in response to the Chicago Heal Initiative launched by Senator Dick Durbin. It urges healthcare providers to bolster their efforts to reduce gun violence and address healthcare needs associated with violence recovery. Southland Rise was created to strengthen collaboration between hospitals and street outreach organizations with the goal of improving trauma-informed care and support for gun violence survivors and their families on the Chicago South Side and South suburbs. The MPI, along with the 2 hospitals, together developed a 2 4-day trainings, cross-trainings that began together brought together the perspectives and knowledge of both street outreach and hospital frontline staff. We completed our first cohort in June and began our next one in February 22. Since starting CP4P in 2017, members of organizations have provided over 200,000 direct services to 5,500 participants most acutely at risk of gun violence. Leading research by Northwestern's Center for Neighborhood Engaged Research and Science estimates that between July 2017 and December 2021, a time of rising crime in Chicago and the country, communities where CP4P was operating saw statistically significant and favorable changes of rates of homicide and nonviolent shootings compared to areas without CP4P. CP4P's work resulted in 383 fewer homicides and non-fatal shootings than would have been expected without CP4P. I want to go now to the importance of federal funding for this work. It has a national impact. Gun violence is a national epidemic. We can address root causes for systemic issues like poverty, inequity, and inequality and lack of educational and employment opportunities. And giving resource allocation can create standards of practice across the country that are important for this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryan. Amy Swearer.
Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Cornyn, and distinguished senators. My name is Amy Swearer. I'm a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Ed Meese Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. Here we are, once again, holding a congressional hearing on gun violence. This time, the chosen lens is that of public health. Despite the slightly different title, it's effectively the same hearing as the last several gun hearings to which I've been called to testify. To be completely honest, I don't have much to say that's different from what I've said in my previous testimonies. Believe me, I'm not being flippant. It's just that using a public health lens hasn't changed the discussion. Put aside that the end goal of many of those pushing the public health framing is often either to use crisis language as an end run around the Constitution or to pathologize the right to keep and bear arms. Put aside, too, that the public health lens is not particularly useful for understanding and addressing a problem that stems at its core not so much from a lack of insight into how violence affects health as from a lack of adequately enforcing criminal laws and utilizing existing mental health frameworks. If we take the issue of gun violence seriously from a public health perspective, none of the problems or solutions have changed. A public health framework doesn't change, for instance, the fact that most gun crimes are perpetrated not by ordinary lawful gun owners, but by a small subset of repeat offenders who are already prohibited from owning guns. It's still the case that if our policing, bail, and prosecutorial policies immediately spit these repeat violent offenders back into the community without pursuing criminal prosecution or punishment, they will predictably keep committing violent crimes. A public health lens doesn't change the fact that most gun deaths are suicides, but half of suicides are carried out with something other than a firearm. So pathologizing a specific weapon remains far less useful than talking about all lethal means during a personal crisis and dealing with hard underlying truths about the nationwide mental health crisis. It certainly doesn't change the fact that most of the gun control restrictions commonly proposed to deal with criminal violence and suicide, things like assault weapons bans, magazine capacity restrictions, punitive public carry laws, and so on, are not even remotely designed to meaningfully address any major factors underlying crime or suicide. And a public health lens doesn't fix the constitutional or practical concerns about implementing these policies, nor does it erase the fundamental importance of the right to keep and bear arms to the natural right of self-defense. And so my proposals for how Congress should move forward may sound pretty familiar. Among other things that I've outlined in my 35 pages of written submission, Congress can and should pursue the following. First, Congress can start right here in Washington, D.C., where the D.C. City Council's reform efforts have created a crime tsunami under which the district's residents are currently drowning. Congress should exercise its plenary authority and pass a modern, comprehensive criminal code for the district, including a mandatory sentencing scheme for the Superior Court judges. It should strip the D.C. Office of Attorney General of the authority to prosecute all crimes and give that to the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office. It should federalize the D.C. Crime Lab and give that to the FBI. Second, Congress can and should rein in federal agencies like ATF when they shift their time and attention to over-regulating peaceable citizens instead of targeting violent criminals who actually threaten public safety. Third, Congress can compel the military branches to better share with civilian authorities all relevant information about service members who clearly pose a danger to themselves or their communities. Last month's shooting by a mentally ill Army reservist in Lewiston, Maine, was not the first time the military's failure to share such information resulted in preventable tragedy. Congress can ensure that it is the last. Fourth, instead of spending so much time pathologizing and demonizing specific mechanisms of violence, Congress can turn its attention toward promoting economic growth and easing crushing inflation rates. No, that's not nearly as sexy as calling for an assault weapons ban, but reducing economic stress, poverty, and family instability lowers a person's overall risk of suicide far more than requiring his or her rifle to be featureless. Senators, if today is an average day, by the time we finish this hearing in about 3 hours, roughly 8 Americans will have been murdered, about twice as many will have killed themselves, and countless others will have been violently victimized. Much of that violence will involve firearms. This is antithetical to human flourishing, to the rule of law, and to civil society. It's a problem worth understanding accurately and addressing meaningfully. And so I am happy to come back and repeat the same testimony as many times as you ask me to. And I will explain the same potential courses of action as often as it takes for Congress to do not just something, but the right things. And I once again look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Swear.
All right, this concludes our coverage of the hearing. If you have any news tips or feedback for the show, don't hesitate to email us at news.today@ntd.com.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. Not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount, and that's how easy it is. And I did this to my father. We were at home, 4 minutes, 34 seconds, completely gone.
My real true opinion is wholly words I can't say on camera. This is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I could feel it just lifting my skin. It was amazing. It feels good. Feels great. Looks even better.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work for yourself after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
Did you know African elephants could become extinct in our lifetime? In fact, more than 90% are already gone. If we don't act now, they will disappear forever. But we can't do it alone, because when it comes to saving elephants, it's you plus IFAW, the International Fund for Animal Welfare. You plus IFAW together can help stop poaching, protect habitats, and save thousands of elephants. Call or go online right now to join ifaw.org and give $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. You can save elephants and the places they call home. Together, we can fund rangers to stop poachers in their tracks, protect the land elephants need to roam and survive, and provide loving care for those who have been orphaned so they can one day be released back into the wild. But the only way we can do this life-saving work is with you plus IFAW. So call or go online with your gift right now. With the monthly support of people just like you, elephants like Moses are alive and thriving today. It takes years of hard work from dedicated teams so orphaned elephants can learn the skills they need to survive in the wild. So please, call now or go online with your monthly gift. You can help provide the urgent care elephants need so this generation won't be the last. And when you use your credit card, you'll get this exclusive membership kit, including your very own IFAW t-shirt to show it's you plus IFAW standing together to help rescue and care for these majestic creatures. The danger for elephants is more urgent than ever before. That's why we need you. It's going to take all of us to help save elephants before they disappear forever. So please, call right away or go to joinifaw.org with your monthly gift, because together, you plus IFAW can save lives.
I'm David Lamb in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we are NTD News.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are our top stories.
Hunter Biden agrees to testify publicly before Congress, while former President Trump plans to take the stand in his own defense in the New York civil fraud trial.
Hamas set to release more Israeli hostages during the extended truce. Both sides are already reporting ceasefire violations, with Israel giving details.
Funding Israel, Ukraine, and the border. Congress wants to pass all three, but different priorities between Democrats and Republicans complicate things. We bring you House Speaker Mike Johnson now says on bipartisan cooperation.
Next year's Senate elections could be tough for Democrats. We take a look at which seats are most likely to flip.
Fighting two battles at the same time. Ukraine is defending Russian aggression and tackling corruption in its own country. Find out what the EU says about corruption in Kyiv.
The first American journalist detained in Russia since the Cold War. The reporter has had no trial yet, but Russia just extended his detention.
All 41 workers trapped inside a collapsed tunnel in India have been rescued. Find out how the rescue teams reached them.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hello and welcome to NTD News Today.
We have insights and perspectives on the stories shaping our world.
Breaking news, in-depth analysis, and inspiration to power your day. Now for our top stories. Hunter Biden is set to appear publicly for the House GOP probe into his family's business dealings.
The president's son has agreed to testify before the House Oversight Committee. Republicans on the committee had subpoenaed Hunter Biden for a closed-door transcribed interview.
In a letter sent to the committee today, Hunter Biden's lawyer accused the Republicans of manipulating facts using closed-door sessions. The lawyer said rather than a closed-door meeting, Hunter Biden is open to testifying publicly before the committee.
Committee Chairman James Comer responded, "We expect full cooperation with our subpoena for a deposition, but also agree that Hunter Biden should have the opportunity to testify in a public setting at a future date."
The subpoena is part of the House GOP's impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Hunter Biden's initial deposition is set for December 13th.
Former President Trump plans to take the stand in his own defense. That's in the New York civil fraud trial. Trump's attorneys made the announcement yesterday. The former president is scheduled to take the stand as the defense's last witness. That's on December 11th. Before that, his son Eric is set to take the stand on December 6th. Also in the case, Trump's attorneys are arguing that the former president isn't responsible for threats made against the law clerk of the judge. The clerk has received hundreds of threatening messages. Trump's attorneys say he should be allowed to speak about her and others. They say a gag order would be unconstitutional and the judge can't curtail his speech simply because people may react to things he says.
In Atlanta, U.S. presidents and first ladies are gathering today for a private tribute service to honor former First Lady Rosalynn Carter. Among the attendees are President Biden, First Lady Jill Biden, and Vice President Kamala Harris. Former President Bill Clinton, along with former First Ladies Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, and Melania Trump will also be in attendance. Former President Jimmy Carter, who is receiving hospice care at home in Plains, is also expected to attend.
A departure ceremony takes place this morning at the Carter Presidential Center before Rosalynn Carter's motorcade heads to Glen Memorial United Methodist Church at Emory University for the private tribute service. Then on Wednesday, a private funeral will be held in Plains.
Rosalynn Carter died on November 19th at 96 years old after she was diagnosed with dementia. The fifth hostage transfer now underway. Hamas is expected to free 10 more hostages today as the truce with Israel gets extended until Wednesday.
But both sides are accusing each other of violating the ceasefire.
Today is the first day of a two-day extension to the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. The two sides have confirmed the list of 20 Israeli hostages and 50 Palestinian prisoners to be released over the 2 days. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said all 50 hostages in the original swap deal have been freed.
But can the ceasefire hold? The Israeli military said 3 explosive devices were detonated near their troops in 2 different locations in northern Gaza. In one of the locations, terrorists also opened fire at the troops. A number of Israeli soldiers were lightly injured.
Hamas, in turn, accused Israel of committing a blatant breach of the ceasefire without providing details.
The CIA director is currently in Doha, Qatar, for talks on extending the truce. The U.S., Qatar, and Egypt are key mediators in the ceasefire deal. Funding for Ukraine. House Speaker Mike Johnson says if the U.S. funds Ukraine, it also has to take care of its own border, making it clear he wants to put Ukraine and border funding together. Here he is yesterday.
I think most of our Senate colleagues recognize that those two things need to move together because we owe that to the American people. That's what they're demanding that we do.
Congress also wants to pass funding for Israel. That's where things get even more complicated.
Republicans want to fund Israel and Ukraine separately. Democrats believe they go together.
This is leading to concerns that no funding will be passed before the Christmas recess. However, Johnson said he's optimistic.
The Biden administration drawing a line in the sand on the war in the Middle East. It reportedly wants Israel to avoid significant further displacement of Palestinian civilians in Gaza, according to anonymous officials. Based on statements by Israeli officials, the offensive on Hamas will resume imminently after the ceasefire. We speak with Brandon Weichert, geopolitical analyst and author of Winning Space, How America Remains a Superpower, about how this could change the war. Brandon Weichert, what could this statement made by Biden administration officials mean for the Israeli ground offensive in Gaza?
Well, it probably means that the Israelis are going to have to weigh whether they want to flagrantly ignore what their most important ally, the United States, the government there, is telling them to do, which is basically to stay their hand. And now I can tell you that if it were me in Netanyahu's position, I would probably ignore the United States. But then again, you have to always keep in mind Israel has to rely on the United States, so they can't go too far outside of what the current leadership in Washington wants, but it's a problem for them because they need to strike back and deter Hamas.
And what could happen if Netanyahu did ignore the U.S. in this?
Well, it could be that they suffer a lot of PR damage, and maybe ultimately they're forced to restrain themselves in the longer run because it's such a loss of prestige and reputation on the world stage. Or it could be that the Biden administration basically pulls back support from Israel, maybe not officially, but in everything but name only, they stop supporting Israel, and that leaves a window of opportunity for other powers like China and Russia to flip Israel into an ally.
Now, these officials are talking about more precise strikes against Hamas to avoid civilian casualties. What could that mean for Hamas?
Well, it's basically all of this, including the recent ceasefire. All of this is giving Hamas the time it needs to reorganize and regroup and prepare for another round of terrorism, which is what this is about. This is why I never supported the ceasefire and why I always said that the Israelis should basically annihilate Gaza Strip from the air and not even waste their time in a long ground war. But no one listens to me these days, I guess.
Sure. What would Israel's war on Hamas look like without U.S. support specifically?
Well, the Israelis have a lot of capabilities that they've built on their own, so they would probably be very effective in direct conflict, just as they are now. The problem, as always, would be international public opinion. And also the problem would be without the shield of the United States to rally the world in defense of Israel, that would allow Iran to really kind of step up against Israel. And with Iran's backing by China and Russia could really hurt Israel in the long run.
And Brandon, how has this war in the Middle East affected the broader U.S. policy toward Israel so far?
Well, it seems, again, the appearance is that we are closer than ever, but behind the scenes, it is not the case. You see this now from these anonymous leaks about how the Biden administration is basically cajoling Netanyahu into not being decisive in retaliating against Hamas for the October 7th attacks. So in the appearance, it looks like America and Israel are walking hand in hand, but in reality, they are not. And this divergence will increase the longer we endure this crisis, because the Americans under Biden do not want to see Israel striking too hard at Hamas or Hezbollah because of fear that it might kill the Iran deal, which Biden is desperately committed to.
Now, Brandon, earlier you mentioned China and Russia and what they could do, what they're trying to how they're trying to influence Israel. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, basically, Israel has long been a partner of the United States. They're a high-tech dynamo in the region. China, in particular, wants to gain access to American high technology. We've cut them off in many respects, so they're looking to third parties that have access to American tech. Israel has a very dynamic tech sector, but Israel is playing keep away because of the Americans. But if America and Israel's relationship breaks down, Israel's going to need new friends to help them protect against their regional traditional enemies like Iran, and that's where China would love to come in and basically be the new protector in exchange for technology. They'll help Israel keep the Iranians at bay, and that's where I think this is headed if Biden keeps pushing Israel away.
All right, Brandon Weichert, thank you for your analysis.
Thank you.
Will President Biden's nominee to head the Social Security Administration be confirmed? The Senate Finance Committee is voting on his confirmation now.
I believe Martin O'Malley is the right person for the job at the right time. I will support his nomination, and I just close by way of saying that I base my support for Martin O'Malley on the fact that every single time we have talked, he has emphasized one matter and one matter only, and that is service above politics. I urge my colleagues to support him this morning. Senator Craig.
Biden nominated former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, a Democrat, to be Commissioner of Social Security.
If confirmed, O'Malley would run one of the biggest social programs in the nation and grapple with the surrounding uncertainty over its funding.
Roughly 70 million people, including retirees, disabled people, and children, receive Social Security benefits. But the program is projected to become financially untenable in about a decade. Coming up, Meta loses its latest court battle. A federal judge rules the platform can profit from users under 18, but also that the government can regulate it.
And video of a bus crash in Ohio that killed 6 people and injured over a dozen. We have footage of a state trooper's response soon when we return.
I'd like to say this is the first time, but there have been others.
How many?
Who can keep track?
You think this is a joke?
Darling, we need answers, and you're gonna give them to us.
Tell us again.
My car broke down. I brought it here. I got stuck paying an expensive repair bill.
So it's true.
How much, darling?
$2,300. But
$2,300.
What was I supposed to do? My transmission was shot.
You pick up your phone and you call CarShield before the car breaks down.
Plans through CarShield cover up to 5,000 parts and systems in your car.
That's right. A plan through CarShield could save you on some criminally high auto repairs, especially if your car is out of warranty. So, call CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company, before a breakdown and save yourself from getting stuck in car repair jail.
Let me guess. You hate saving money.
Who hates saving money?
Apparently you do.
All you had to do was call CarShield. And you could have protected yourself against expensive repairs.
Yeah, and then my price will go up the minute I file a claim.
Shut up! CarShield has the price locked in.
For as long as you cover your car.
Guess I should have called CarShield?
It's about time you said something that made sense.
Now you know what you need to do next time.
Bet he'll call CarShield now.
So can I go? Or...
Don't get handcuffed paying expensive auto repairs. Call now and get the CarShield guarantee. Your price will never go up and your coverage will never go down as long as you cover your car. In just minutes, you could have a plan that covers up to 5,000 parts and systems in your car. Don't wait until it's too late. Get CarShield's best coverage yet. Call 800-965-0729. 800-965-0729. 800-965-0729.
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard. That's why who you work with matters. Together with Homelight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
Welcome back. 2024 presidential candidate Nikki Haley has received a significant endorsement from Americans for Prosperity Action. This influential conservative network is founded by the billionaire Koch brothers.
The group said the former South Carolina governor is the strongest candidate to defeat former President Trump in the GOP primaries. It plans to launch a multi-million-dollar ad campaign to help Haley.
While she has gained momentum in recent polls, she still trails behind Trump. She also faces competition from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And Florida Governor and presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis is meeting with financial supporters of the newly formed super PAC Fight Right. That's according to a memo that went out to DeSantis supporters Monday morning. DeSantis' campaign manager says Fight Right has guaranteed minimal overhead costs, with 100% of contributions going directly to TV ads. The campaign also says the new super PAC will work closely with Never Back Down, another pro-DeSantis political organization. Monday's announcement comes amid a shakeup at Never Back Down. Last week, the group's CEO stepped down, writing in a statement that it became untenable for him to deliver on the shared goal of electing DeSantis, quote, given the current environment.
2 Republican lawmakers in Arizona now have to explain why they support proof of citizenship to vote. Democrats say the state laws in question are a GOP effort to suppress votes. Republicans say the legislation is needed to assure election integrity. The lawmakers say they can't be forced to explain their stance because the legislative process is protected.
This is a recognized privilege for lawmakers. The Arizona pair says it prevents judicial second-guessing of the lawmaking process.
But a federal district judge in September ordered them to testify. She ruled that their appearance was required for a lawsuit brought by Democrats and activist groups.
The Supreme Court upheld the court order yesterday. So now the 2 lawmakers will have to testify about why they support the voter ID laws.
Now for a quick preview of the general elections next year. Which Senate seats are most likely to flip?
Democrats face an uphill battle to hold on to their majority in the Senate. In the 2024 elections, these 5 Senate seats are most likely to flip. First up, Democratic Senator Joe Manchin's seat in West Virginia. Manchin announced this month he's not running for re-election. This means his seat is almost guaranteed to go to Republicans in the heavily red state. In Montana, Republicans are seeking to oust Democratic Senator Jon Tester. Tester is running for re-election in a state that former President Trump carried by 16 points. In Ohio, Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown is trying to secure a 4th term. The past decade has seen Ohio transform from a swing state to a reliably Republican state. And in Arizona, Independent Senator Kyrsten Sinema hasn't announced her run for re-election. But if she does, she will face a 3-way battle against both the GOP and the Democratic Party. And lastly, in Pennsylvania, Democratic Senator Bob Casey will also face tough re-election in a state that saw razor-thin margins in recent elections.
The president of Michigan's Education Board is now running for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Pamela Pugh had originally been running for the Senate. Now the Democrat is running to represent Michigan's 8th district.
The seat will be open following incumbent Democrat Dan Kildee's retirement. Pugh has lived in the district for more than 50 years.
Her campaign has named abortion access, the economy, climate, and education as top priorities.
Michigan has 13 representatives in the House, 7 Democrats and 6 Republicans.
A top Department of Defense official has reportedly been arrested following a 2-day human trafficking sting. According to the Noonan Times-Herald, Stephen Hovannik was arrested mid-November and charged with pandering. Paying for or attempting to pay for sex is a misdemeanor in Georgia.
Hovannik worked as the former chief of staff for the Department of Defense Education Activity. The senior Pentagon official was among the 26 suspects in total who were arrested during the sting.
Approximately 12 others were charged with prostitution. 10 were charged for pandering. 4 were charged with pimping.
3 of those arrested are under investigation for human trafficking and drug charges. Law enforcement officials were able to rescue 6 victims in total during the 2-day operation.
Now to New Orleans. Some unexpected and frightening moments aboard a Southwest Airlines plane. The plane was still at its gate in Louis Armstrong International Airport when a man on board suddenly opened the emergency door, climbed onto the plane's wing, and then jumped to the ground. As you can see in this video, security quickly surrounded the man.
The incident occurred Sunday night. One passenger told CNN he witnessed what sounded like an argument between 2 people in the aisle across from him. The passenger was worried a fight would break out, so he took out his phone to start recording.
Moments later, the man opened the emergency door and jumped. Authorities took the man to a hospital for a mental health evaluation. He's not expected to face local charges, but federal authorities will do their own investigation. We have dramatic new footage of a state trooper's response to a fire that engulfed a bus carrying high school band members. The crash happened on November 14th in central Ohio.
The crash killed 3 students, 2 parent chaperones, and a teacher who were on the bus. At least 18 people were also hurt in the 5-vehicle crash. Investigators with the Highway Patrol say a semi-truck hit the bus and triggered the chain reaction crash. The National Transportation Safety Board is still investigating the incident.
A judge ruled yesterday a University of North Carolina student is unfit to stand trial. The student is charged with fatally shooting his faculty advisor back in August.
A Superior Court judge in Raleigh said 2 separate mental evaluations found the suspect likely has untreated schizophrenia. The judge ruled yesterday that Tai-Lei Chi will be committed to a hospital for psychological treatment.
Police in Michigan engaged in the opposite of a high-speed chase. That's after receiving a call about a stolen construction vehicle.
The police dash cam shows the suspect, a 12-year-old boy, leading police on a chase. The juvenile drove the vehicle at around 15 to 20 miles per hour in a Michigan neighborhood.
The 12-year-old boy hit around 10 parked vehicles during the incident. The Ann Arbor Police Department says the chase eventually ended with his arrest. And over in New York, unprecedented numbers of NYPD police officers are leaving the force as crime continues to soar. According to the Epoch Times, more than 2,500 officers have resigned just this year. That includes a 100% increase since 2020 in officers leaving the force before they reach the 20 years required to receive their full pensions. Earlier, we spoke with retired New Jersey Police Detective Lieutenant Stephen Rogers for his perspective. Lieutenant, thank you so much for joining us. To begin with, as a retired police detective, how do you interpret the recent mass exodus of police officers from the force, especially from the NYPD? And what factors do you think are driving that?
Well, the major factor driving the exodus of police officers from departments all over the country, and especially New York City, is the political interference that is very, very strong within the ranks of the departments. You know, years ago, police chiefs were able to do their job. The political people in charge of police departments gave cops the tools they needed in order to do their job. Legislation was passed in the state legislatures and city councils to provide police officers with protection when they are actually involved in violent confrontations with criminals. That doesn't exist anymore. So police officers simply are no longer going to put their pensions and their future at risk. Thus, they're leaving.
And what do you think could be the immediate and long-term consequences of this exodus, considering the rising crime rates as well?
Well, we see the consequences now. The criminals have taken over our streets. Look, every day we see on newscasts of criminals breaking into large department stores, shoplifting in the millions of dollars in cost to these big companies, mugging, shootings, people being thrown off of subway platforms. And by the way, this past month, a number of New York City police officers being attacked themselves. And what are the consequences against these criminals? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You mentioned the political influence on the force. How important is that in regards to police morale?
A good question, and it's extremely important. Police officers need to know that their superior officers, not only within the ranks of the police department, but the political forces are going to have their backs. Now, that doesn't mean to say that everything a cop does, a superior officer should support. Bad cops need to go, and the good cops will be the first to tell you that the bad cops need to go. But the good cops are being affected by political interference, which is actually diluting the morale and the welfare of the ranks. And police officers, I can tell you, nationwide feel, for the most part, that their political authorities within their ranks do not support them.
And last time we spoke, you told me about a program that you said had been in practice and had worked when you were in the force. And how do you think it could apply today? Could you tell me more about it, whether you think it could somehow affect these dynamics that are here today?
Well, it certainly could. Police officers need someone to speak with when they're running into many of the pressures they're facing. And by the way, let us not forget the spouses and family members of police officers. They suffer also as a result of what we see. And who can they go see? Who can they trust with confidence that they won't go off and spread the word, if you will, about this cop having a problem to deal with? They're called police chaplains, your priests, your rabbis. The clergy is very, very important. And I've advocated for a long time, because I've worked here in some of our towns in New Jersey, to make sure that there's an office, a physical office with a chaplain in each police department. So that officer could walk into that office and talk to the chaplain or make an appointment to see them elsewhere and just pour their heart out to them about the problems they're facing.
And considering the rising crime rates, as we have both acknowledged, and the staffing shortages, what advice would you give to current law enforcement leaders and political leaders as well?
Well, I would advise political leaders to reassess the situations that they're facing in each city, understand that what they're doing is not working. Unfortunately, there's a common thread through what we're seeing across America, and it is political. These are Democrats in control of these cities. Their policies are bad. Their policies are pro-crime and not pro-crime prevention. And they need to wake up and realize that there's an utter failure in what they're doing. And in order for that to turn around, they're going to have to turn things around through legislation, or the people need to step up and remove these people from office and put individuals in office who will let the police protect and serve as they're called to do.
Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, retired New Jersey police detective, thank you so much for your time.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you.
In May, the FTC accused Meta of misleading parents about how much parental control they have. The commission reached a $5 billion settlement with Facebook in 2019, but the agency's new proposal would bar Facebook from using the data from underage users for profit, including data from its virtual reality technology. Meta gets more than 98% of its income from targeted digital ads using personal data. The FTC is arguing that it gets to decide to change the settlement, not the district court.
Joining us now is NTD Business host Don Ma to discuss Amazon.
According to the Wall Street Journal, the e-commerce giant now has the biggest delivery business in the U.S. by parcel volume. Amazon is taking the crown from FedEx and UPS.
Don, when did this happen?
Right, so this is according to a Wall Street Journal report, and apparently in 2022, Amazon surpassed UPS in parcel volume, as you guys just mentioned just now, and FedEx, it was surpassed in 2020. And the gap is only set to widen further this year, and this is, of course, it's citing internal Amazon data, which was reviewed by sources familiar with the situation. But all that being said, the biggest parcel service is still the USPS. Amazon hasn't taken over that just yet. But here are just some numbers for you guys to put this all into context. Ahead of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, Amazon had already delivered more than 4.8 billion packages in the US alone, so billion. And this is around a 13.5 increase compared to last year.
How many packages does Amazon expect to deliver by the end of this year?
Okay, so by the end of this year, we're expecting around 5.9 billion. So we got a couple months to go of 2023, but I have to point out a distinct difference of how Amazon counts their deliveries compared to how the other two companies count their deliveries. So Amazon figures include items shipped from beginning to end, and UPS and FedEx include packages that are handed off to other services that are delivered in the end. But besides that, another point to mention as well, Amazon has surpassed the two companies on residential delivery. So we're not talking about the global level. In that aspect, Amazon has not surpassed these two companies just yet. And an analyst with JP Morgan actually said that Amazon's pickup delivery and coverage is actually not at the same level either when compared to FedEx and UPS.
Okay, so is there anything else, Don?
Yeah, sure. It seems like fashion company Shein has confidentially filed to go public in the United States, and this is according to two sources familiar with the matter. Shein could be one of the most valuable China-founded companies to list in New York, and Shein could launch its new share sale sometime in 2024, and this is according to the sources that told Reuters. Shein has not determined, though, the size of the deal or the valuation at IPO, but Bloomberg has reported earlier this month that it targeted up to $90 billion in the public offering. The company was founded in mainland China in 2012, and was valued at more than $60 billion in 2012 May. And other than that, former Binance chief Changpeng Zhao must stay in the United States for now. A federal judge said this on Monday. He must remain until the Seattle court considers whether he should stay through his sentencing hearing in February or be allowed to return to the United Arab Emirates, where he's actually a citizen there. And Zhao stepped down as CEO of Binance last week after pleading guilty to money laundering charges. And Google will be deleting inactive accounts this week. If you have a Google account and you haven't used it for a while and you want to keep it from disappearing, you should sign in before Friday. Under Google's inactive account policy announced in May, accounts that haven't been used in at least 2 years could be deleted, and accounts deemed inactive will be erased beginning Friday. Google cites possible security issues as the reason for the policy. Accounts made for organizations, though, or schools or companies won't be affected. Just a few quick updates from me.
Very helpful. Thanks so much, Don. Honda is recalling hundreds of thousands of vehicles due to an issue with their seat belts.
The Japanese automaker made the announcement in a filing with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration last week. The recall affects over 300,000 Honda Accords and HR-Vs that were manufactured between October 4th of last year and October 14th of this year.
Honda says the vehicles are missing pre-tensioner rivets. That's the part of the seat belt that tightens under the sudden force and prevents occupants from flying forward in the event of a collision.
Honda says the defective parts increase the risk of injury in a crash. Fortunately, the automaker says it hasn't received any reports of injuries or deaths as a result.
Honda says it will start notifying owners by mail beginning January 8th.
But they also say that owners can enter their vehicle information number on Honda's recall website to see if theirs is affected.
Do you feel the bills getting higher and higher every time you check out at the supermarket? Do you feel your monthly discretionary money has decreased, although your income increases yearly? Inflation is eating away at your wealth. Digital wallets and central bank digital currencies are destroying financial privatization. Only gold and silver are constitutional forms of money. Our privacy was to be protected against unlawful search and seizure. Midas Gold Group will help you take control of your finances and protect your wealth and your privacy. Pulling money out of the corrupt banking and investment system is a way to privatize your finances as the elite push us towards digital wallets and central bank digital currency. Protect your wealth with real money. deal with the best. Midas Gold Group, a proud America First company. MidasGoldGroup.com.
This is it, the culmination of everything our young athlete has worked for these past months. He's filled with determination. You can see it in his face. Is today the day he overcomes? And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's on fire. Nothing can stop him. Watch him as he heads towards the goal. Oh, he's blocked hard. But that doesn't stop him. He's a warrior. He's back up. His eyes are on the goal. He's set up for the shot. He shoots. Goal!
Achieving goals like this is only possible with the monthly support of people just like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support to Shriners Hospitals for Children so other children can reach their goals too.
If you give just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we will send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of the love you're giving us. Because of monthly support of people like you, nothing is stopping me from achieving my goals.
And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's going left. Oh, he fakes right and continues. Look at those moves. He takes the shot. Goal! Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to give right away. Your monthly gift helps kids achieve their goals. Goal!
I'm Kelly Wright in New York City, and we are NTD News.
And back to the news. Now heading to Europe, we have some short headlines from the UK, Germany, and other countries. Meeting with NATO founding members and later visiting the Middle East again. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is currently focused on two separate wars.
Later this week, he'll visit Israel, the West Bank, and the United Arab Emirates. That's as Washington aims to help secure the release of all hostages kidnapped by Hamas. It will be his third trip to the region since the October 7th attacks.
Today, Blinken is meeting with Norway's foreign minister at NATO headquarters in Belgium. That's to attend meetings focused on the ongoing war in Europe and the responses to it.
We'll be speaking together about our shared commitment to Ukraine as it continues to defend itself against Russian aggression.
In Belgium today, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg taking a strong stance regarding support for Ukraine.
He says allied nations have to send a united message to dictators around the globe.
It's our obligation to ensure that we provide Ukraine with the weapons they need, because it will be a tragedy for the Ukrainians if President Putin wins, but it will also be dangerous for us.
As Ukraine continues to fight Russia at its borders, it's also fighting corruption within its own country. European Commission's vice president today praised Ukraine for its anti-corruption efforts.
Ukraine is trying to become a member of the European Union. Conditions for that include tackling corruption.
The vice president is originally from Czechia. He says it's in the EU's interest to accept new members.
The criticism which I sometimes hear that, look, there are corruption cases in Ukraine, so this is a corrupted country. I would put it differently, because we see the cases. And because we see the cases being prosecuted, we see that Ukraine is establishing or has established efficient system.
A Wall Street Journal reporter is still behind bars in Russia. Today, a Russian court extended the pretrial detention of Evan Gershkovich. That's for 2 months through the end of January.
Russia says Gershkovich was caught red-handed trying to obtain military secrets. He's the first U.S. journalist to be detained on spy charges in Russia since the Cold War.
Gershkovich was arrested in March. The espionage charges carry up to 20 years in prison. The Reporter and the Wall Street Journal continue denying the accusations. Germany is dealing with a serious budget crisis. Germany's top court recently canceled proposed funding for renewable energy projects and relief for consumers and businesses.
This blew a $65 billion hole in Germany's finances. The court decided that the fund would violate debt limits set out in the Constitution.
This budget crisis is leading to infighting in the German government. Chancellor Olaf Scholz today addressed Parliament, trying to reassure them that his government would modernize the economy and support vital industries, despite the court ruling.
Here's how the opposition party responded.
This is the government of the world's fourth largest economy. It's simply embarrassing what we are seeing and hearing from you here. After this government declaration, it must be concluded you are incompetent.
The United Kingdom in dispute with Greece over sculptures. Greece wants the Parthenon sculptures back, which are currently in a British museum.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak canceled a scheduled meeting today. Greece now says this is because of the ongoing artifacts dispute.
A British diplomat removed the sculptures from the Parthenon temple in the early 19th century. At the time, the diplomat was ambassador to the Ottoman Empire.
Here are British and Greek officials commenting on the issue today.
The Prime Minister set out clearly the government's position about the Elgin marble. So I think the position is very clear.
We feel that these sculptures belong to Greece and that they were essentially stolen. But this is not, in my mind, an ownership question. This is a reunification argument. Where can you best appreciate what is essentially one monument? I mean, it's as if I told you that you would cut the Mona Lisa in half, and you would have half of it at the Louvre and half of it at the British Museum.
And now, shifting gears, some top news from countries in the Asia-Pacific region. Ambassadors from the U.S. and North Korea got into a verbally sparring match at the UN Security Council yesterday. The heated discussions centered on North Korea's first spy satellite launch and the reasons for growing tensions between the two countries.
North Korea's envoy claimed the U.S. was threatening use of a nuclear weapon and therefore has a right to develop and possess similar weapons.
The DPRK claims it's acting in self-defense, but the self-defense really does not stand here, as the U.S. and ROK military exercises, as you know, are routine and they're defensive in nature. And we intentionally reduce risk and pursue transparency by announcing the exercises in advance, including the dates and the activities, unlike the DPRK.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un also claims the spy satellite has taken photos of the White House, the Pentagon, and U.S. aircraft carriers. So far, North Korea has not released any of these images yet.
North Korea has been under UN sanctions for its ballistic missile and nuclear programs since 2006. This includes a ban on the development of ballistic missiles. For the first time, South Korea will join NATO's cyber coalition. It's one of the world's largest cyber defense exercises.
The drills will simulate cyber attacks against critical infrastructure, and defenders from 34 countries will train to counter the attacks.
They'll also practice recovering control of key systems. It's happening in Estonia and remotely until Friday.
11 military officials from South Korea are taking part as the country deepens its ties with NATO.
The Chinese regime is trying to recruit government workers and academics in Canada. This is according to a warning from Canada's top spy agency.
The Canadian Security Intelligence Service, or CISA, or CSIS, sent out alerts to government workers earlier this month. It warned them that the Chinese regime is using a large-scale email campaign to lure Canadians into Chinese talent programs.
CSIS warns such programs can result in the loss of resources and sensitive information for Canada.
The Canadian Spy Agency also says the Chinese Communist regime is leveraging such recruitment programs for espionage purposes.
All 41 workers trapped inside a collapsed tunnel in the Indian Himalayas have been rescued.
It took 17 days of drilling through rock, concrete, and earth to reach them.
The men were stuck in the 3-mile tunnel in the mountainous region since it caved in on November 12th.
Authorities haven't said what caused the cave-in, but the region is prone to landslides, earthquakes, and floods.
And New Zealand's new coalition government is set to roll out more changes. According to coalition agreements, they plan to scrap laws banning tobacco sales for future generations.
The previous Labour Party government introduced the bans. The measures would have banned tobacco selling to anyone born after January 1st, 2009.
The measures would also have reduced the amount of nicotine allowed in smoked tobacco products and cut the number of retailers able to sell tobacco by over 90%.
Prime Minister Christopher Luxon says smoking rates have come down across multiple generations of government, and he expects that to continue.
And speaking of tobacco bans, Australia is beginning to crack down on vaping. The country will ban imports of disposable vapes in January.
The ban will be expanded in March to include all non-therapeutic vapes, including refillable devices. Importers of vapes for medical purposes will need government permits.
The Australian Border Force and the Therapeutic Goods Administration will also get extra funding to enforce the new rules.
Vaping in Australia is growing rapidly, especially amongst young people. According to government data, around 1 in 5 people aged 18 to 24 vape.
And coming up, cities across the world are marking the holiday season with magical light displays and festive fun. Which is your favorite?
And it turns out Texas Governor Greg Abbott is quite the daredevil. Joined by a World War II veteran, the 3-term Republican governor skydives for the first time. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
The highest art is beautiful, breathtaking, timeless, and moving. Experience art with 5,000 years of history, inspired by the divine. Experience Shin-Yun.
To a child, this is what conflict looks like. Children in Ukraine are caught in the crossfire of war, forced to flee their homes.
A steady stream of refugees has been coming across all day. It's bitterly cold.
Lacking clean water and sanitation, exposed to injury, hunger.
Exhausted and shell-shocked from what they've been through.
Every dollar you give can help bring a meal, a blanket, or simply hope to a child living in conflict. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. That's just 33 cents a day. We cannot forget the children in places like Syria, born in refugee camps, playing in refugee camps, thinking of the camps as home. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month. Your gift can help children like Ara in Afghanistan, where nearly 20 years of conflict have forced the people into extreme poverty. Weakened and unable to hold herself up, Ara was brought to a Save the Children center where she was diagnosed and treated for severe malnutrition. Every dollar helps. Please call or go online to GiveNowToSave.org today with your gift of $10 a month, just 33 cents a day. And thanks to special government grants that are available now, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this special Save the Children tote bag to show you won't forget the children who are living their lives in conflict. Every war is a war against children. Please, give now.
Did you know ESG is impacting every part of your life? From rising gas prices to global food shortages to out-of-control inflation, even losing your freedom of speech and being censored on the internet. It's all being driven by ESG ideology. Who's in control? What can you do about it? Find out in The Shadow State, the first documentary exposing ESG. The ESG movement of governments and corporations operates in the shadows. Only the light of truth can expose it. Watch the Shadow State documentary, streaming now.
And we're back. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is making big moves, and it's not in politics. The three-term Republican governor went skydiving on Monday for the first time.
Hello, lovely to see you all. Welcome to Kew Gardens, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Christmas, Happy New Year. Great to see you all.
A Christmas without Santa is not a real Christmas. The famous UNESCO World Heritage Site Kew Gardens has a spectacular festive light show with Father Christmas on hand to welcome visitors. More than 1 million lights illuminate the Royal Botanical Gardens, providing an after-dark spectacle guaranteed to put visitors in the Christmas spirit. Another magical display can be found at Blenheim Palace, the historic 18th century Oxfordshire palace and birthplace of Sir Winston Churchill. The illuminated Christmas lights trail has been operating for 8 years, but this year marks its biggest display yet. And the show isn't just outside. Inside the palace, the historic rooms have been transformed to tell the fairy tale's Sleeping Beauty. Regent Street in central London has been lit up every year for Christmas for nearly 80 years. This year, 50 suspended angel-like spirits of Christmas illuminate the street. Nearby Carnaby Street chose a space theme for its lights, with giant glowing planets and a swirling, shimmering nebula. And Oxford Street, London's busiest shopping street, has been decorated with a simple design of thousands of gently glowing stars. In Denmark, Copenhagen's Tivoli Gardens, one of the oldest amusement parks in the world, opened for the Christmas season with lights, festive cheer and, of course, Santa Claus. Paris kicked off the holiday season with the illumination of the Champs-Élysées. The world-famous boulevard was packed with tourists and residents spellbound by the dazzling Christmas lights. And finally in Madrid, a staggering 12 million LED bulbs were lit to mark the start of the Christmas season. 12,000 people gathered to see the spectacle, with added fireworks and Christmas songs.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott is falling from the sky. Literally. The three-term Republican governor went skydiving on Monday for the first time. He jumped with an instructor from about 8,000 feet above suburbs between Austin and San Antonio. He was joined by a 106-year-old World War II veteran who jumped separately.
The veteran previously held the Guinness World Record title for oldest tandem skydive.
Abbott is 66 and uses a wheelchair because he's paralyzed from the waist down. A tree fell on him when he was a young law school student.
He joked to reporters after the jump that he had confronted his biggest fear. He said, "I would land and I would not be able to walk away." A national park in Indonesia is welcoming a new member, a critically endangered Sumatran rhino calf. The newborn brings the population at the Sumatran Rhino Sanctuary up to 10. This is a significant boost for the species, which has less than 80 members left in the world. The rhino baby is yet to be named.
The calf's mother, Delilah, is a native 7-year-old. The Sumatran rhino is the smallest and hairiest of living rhinos and is at risk of extinction. The birth is an important conservation success and offers hope for the survival of the unique species. TSA is releasing something that we can look forward to heading into the new year. It has nothing to do with long lines this holiday season. The agency is showing off its 2024 Canine Calendar, which highlights hardworking canines from across the nation. There are more than 1,000 explosive detection dogs featured.
The cover girl is Dina. She's the winner of the 2023 Cutest Canine Contest. The 3-year-old German short-haired pointer works at Harry Reid International Airport in Las Vegas.
The calendar isn't just full of cute pups. You'll learn some facts about Fido. Like, did you know a dog's nose is powerful enough to detect substances at concentrations of 1 part per trillion? That is about the same as a single drop of liquid in 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
The calendar is already available for download on the agency's website. And that's all for today's news.
Thank you for tuning in.
Feel free to reach out to us with any news tips or feedback at news.today@ntd.com.
And we'll be back with more news tomorrow.